Picture this. The power goes out. Your fridge dies. Your freezer turns into a warm, sad box of regret. How long until disaster? A day? Two? By day 3, your milk has become cheese nobody ordered, your meat smells like a crime scene, and your berries have grown a fuzzy green beard. For us, this is a catastrophe. For our ancestors, this was just Tuesday. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans had no fridge, no freezer, and no little beeping thing that yells when you leave the door open. And here's what everybody gets wrong. We imagine our ancestors as sad, starving cavemen gnawing on rotten mystery meat. But that's completely backwards. These people were absolute geniuses. Without knowing a single word of chemistry, biology, or physics, they figured out how to literally stop time for their food. And to understand how, you first have to meet the enemy. The enemy is bacteria. Tiny, invisible, and constantly hungry, bacteria are the little guys turning your dinner into sludge. But bacteria have one fatal weakness. To grow and multiply, they need water. No water, no party. Take the water away, and your food can basically live forever. Our ancestors figured this out the simplest way possible: the sun. They sliced meat and fish thin, hung it up, and let the sun and wind suck every drop of moisture out. The result was dry, tough, and lasted for months. But the masterpiece of drying was something called pemmican. Native American tribes took dried meat, pounded it into powder, mixed it with animal fat, and crushed berries, and packed it tight. The result was the original energy bar. Pemmican could last for years. Years! It was packed with so many calories it could fuel a warrior through an entire winter. Modern protein bars wish they were this hardcore. Drying worked, but it was slow and depended on good weather. So humans found a faster way to wage war on water: salt. We treat salt like the boring stuff on the table. But for most of human history, it was called white gold. Salt is a moisture vampire. Through a process we now call osmosis, salt literally pulls water straight out of cells, both out of the food and out of any bacteria foolish enough to land on it. Pack meat in salt and you've built a fortress no microbe can survive. Salt was so valuable that Roman soldiers were sometimes paid partly in it. In fact, that's where our word salary comes from. So the next time you complain about your paycheck, just be grateful they're not handing you a bag of salt. Now, drying and salting were planned on purpose. But the next great breakthrough was a total accident. Imagine an early human hanging meat over a fire, probably just to keep it away from hungry animals. Days later, they notice the meat hasn't gone bad. In fact, it tastes incredible. Congratulations, you just invented smoking, and you have no idea why it works. Here's the secret: smoke doesn't just dry the meat. Smoke is full of natural chemicals, including formaldehyde and compounds called phenols. These are natural germ killers. As the smoke wraps around the meat, it forms a protective crust, a kind of invisible armor that bacteria simply cannot crawl through. And the best part? The flavor. What started as a desperate survival trick became one of the most beloved tastes on the planet. Bacon, smoked salmon, that smoky barbecue you fight your family over at cookouts, all of it is just an accidental side effect of trying not to die. Survival has never been so delicious. But drying, salting, and smoking all attack the food directly. Our ancestors had another idea entirely. Instead of changing the food, why not just use the cold? No freezer, no problem. Just use the entire planet. Our ancestors realized that the Earth itself is one giant refrigerator, if you know where to dig. Go down just a few meters underground, and something strange happens. The temperature stops caring about the weather. It could be a brutal summer up top, but down in a cellar, it stays cool and steady, somewhere around 10 to 15 degrees Celsius all year round. So people dug root cellars and earth pits, and suddenly they had cold storage that ran on absolutely nothing. In the far north, people went next level. They used glaciers and permafrost as natural freezers, stashing entire animal carcasses in the ice to keep for months. Mother Nature's chest freezer, no electricity bill included. But the strangest trick of all comes from the bogs of Ireland and Scotland. Behold, bogged butter. People buried barrels of butter deep in the peat bogs, and it turns out a bog is the perfect preservation machine. It's cold, it's highly acidic, and it has almost no oxygen, which means bacteria can't do anything. The proof? Archaeologists keep digging up lumps of butter that are over 2,000 years old. And here's the truly horrifying part. Some of it is technically still edible. I said edible. I did not say you should try it. That bog hints at something deeper, because the acid was doing the real work. And that leads us to the weirdest trick of all, the one that sounds completely insane. To stop your food from rotting, you let it rot. On purpose. Welcome to fermentation, the art of controlled decay. Here's the paradox. Not all bacteria are villains. Some are heroes. When you encourage the good bacteria to grow, like the ones that make lactic acid, they turn the food sour and acidic. And that acid creates an environment so harsh that the dangerous, food poisoning bacteria simply can't survive. It's like hiring a gang of tiny friendly bouncers to guard your dinner. And fermentation didn't just preserve food, it made it better. Take sauerkraut fermented cabbage, it kept for the entire winter. And because it locked in vitamin C, it could save an entire ship's crew from scurvy. A barrel of sour cabbage was a literal lifesaver on long sea voyages. Fermentation is also the secret behind some of humanity's greatest hits. Cheese? That's just a clever way to preserve milk before it spoils. Wine and beer? Brilliant ways to store the calories from grapes and grain. And as a bonus, they were actually safer to drink than the dirty water around them. People weren't day drinking for fun. Well, not only for fun, they were staying alive. So let's go back to the beginning, to your dead fridge and your sad warm milk. The refrigerator changed everything. It gave us incredible convenience. We can keep almost anything for almost forever, and we never have to think about it. But here's the twist nobody mentions. That convenience came at a price. The fridge quietly cut our connection to nature and to actually understanding where our food comes from and how it works. We traded thousands of years of brilliant knowledge for a humming box and a light that turns on. And here's the proof of how good that old knowledge really was. The best restaurants on Earth today, the fanciest, most expensive ones, are racing back to these ancient methods. They're fermenting, smoking, and aging food in cellars and charging you a fortune for it. Because it turns out these tricks were never just about survival. They make food taste amazing. So remember this. Your ancestors were scientists without a single textbook. They mastered chemistry, biology, and physics using nothing but sunlight, salt, smoke, dirt, and patience. They stopped time with their bare hands. So the next time you grab a slice of cheese, crunch into a pickle, or bite a strip of bacon, take a second to appreciate it. You're not just having a snack. You're tasting one of the oldest and smartest inventions in human history. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go check on my 2,000-year-old butter.